Hey everyone, Mrhappy here, and welcome to Mondays with Mrhappy, aka Mrhappy Mondays, a weekly Q&A show where you ask me questions, and I wear a hat because my hair is really messed up and I can't be asked to fix it before this video starts. No kidding, my hair is just getting too long. It's time. Another buzz, another trim, everything's got to go because this is disheveled me. And I feel that way today, so I'm going to get right into the questions. I did get a new PC, though. Do want to start with that as well, so hopefully we'll be having as many technical issues with various things like State of the Realm or whatnot. Who knows? Maybe the programs are still going to be screwed up, but at least the computer, I know, will no longer be the issue. So I'll include the specs to that in the stream because I know everyone's going to ask anyway, so I might as well do that. And it's been working well so far. So my baby over here hopefully will be producing many content in the near future. But with that, like I said, I'm actually uber tired today, so I want to get into the Q&A. Thank you to our sponsors over on Patreon for supporting. They really have no good reason to, other than that they like stuff here, and they do it anyway. And I don't know why, because look at me. What's it doing? What's it fixing? It's like look at this. This is what it's unfortunate. All right. And thank you to our patrons of Darkness, Khuja, Janova, and Kurenai Oni for going above and beyond. Thank you to all of our sponsors over on Patreon, and thank you to all of you for tuning in. I get asked a lot on Twitch how you ask a question for this. By the way, you ask it in the comment section below. I should really start leading with that. So with that, let's see what people commented below the video. All right, question number one, hashtag Mrhappy Mondays. Hey, Haps, hope you're doing well. Yeah, tired today, but other than that, not too bad. Hopefully I can get some good sleep tonight and some good sleep before patch 5.55 on Tuesday. A while back, some new change pose idols were added, but do you think we'll ever get more weapon-drawn idols? You know, I don't see why not, but I think a big reason why we probably won't, because they probably want to actually do like emote rewards from various things, and so they probably would shift focus from this to developing emotes that you can get from MSQ or from side content or things like that. So I won't say no, because I definitely think there's a demand for it, and we all see that you demand something enough, you know, you tend to get it sooner or later. But I wouldn't expect it anytime soon, because I actually haven't heard anyone talking about it, which means in terms of gauged interest, you know, I don't know how high that is on the scale for them. Hashtag Mrhappy Mondays. Hey, Haps, near collab question. I'm sorry. Listen, it'll be good. We just got to get to the epilogue quest. It's on its way. It's going to be good. Just, I don't know why all of you are being so immature and not believing in it. The choice between Anog and Konog's plan we made at the beginning of the raid series implied it would affect something somewhere. Do you know if it did? If so, can you tell me what it affected? Do you think the epilogue is going to be affected by it? Honestly, so nothing at this point has been affected by it as far as I know. I've spoken to other people. All of them seem to be on the same page as, you know, as to what is currently going on. Nobody sees any differences. So the epilogue has to be, if anywhere, if it wasn't just some sort of, you know, oh, you know, you're going to feel so cool about this. Because they've done that in other parts of the game where they give you a decision that they say will impact the story, but the impact only ends up being basically how you get to the end point, but the end point is the same. Actually, the same thing happened with Baldesion Arsenal in Eureka. You get to make a decision after you, or you get to make a decision before you do the Baldesion Arsenal that it essentially on the surface looks like it's going to lead down two majorly different paths. But after you beat Baldesion Arsenal, the paths converge to essentially the same ending. So it's possible that just which plan you agree to was the change, and that once it met at the end of that plan, then it's exactly the same outcome. Or the epilogue is going to be affected by it. That we won't know for sure until, you know, the epilogue actually comes out. Bonus moon question under that. If you had to guess where you think the Loporrits came from, you know, I'm trying to think to the Hummingways, because the Hummingways are just on the moon. But they're going to have to write like a lore story for this, aren't they? Maybe they're just moon people. Maybe they are from the moon. Maybe they lived here before the... Maybe they're unsundered. Maybe all the moon people are actually unsundered individuals who were on the moon before Zodiark was trapped in it. And now they still live on the moon, but under his influence? I don't know. That's what I got, all right? Hashtag Mrhappy Mondays. Hi, Haps. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, by the way, my second shot, I barely even got a sore arm. I've seen a few comments about it because that's, you know, I got it right before the recording last week. No, it's essentially done nothing to me. So I got away with both shots, barely being affected by either of them. So two quick questions, one you've probably answered before. So the first one, Square Enix said that with the addition of Sage, you'll have the ability in the Party Finder to split the healer role into Barrier and Pure. So I'm thinking back to that, and I don't think that's what they said. I, of course, could be wrong, but I'm almost positive they said that specifically the Duty Finder, and more particularly the Raid Finder, which they actually use in Japan. Japan, if you want to do re-clears for content, you use the Raid Finder. You do not use the Party Finder. Party Finder is mostly for practice over in Japan. So the idea was that if you're going into something like a raid using the raid finder, that it would do its best to make sure there's one healer and one pure healer, one shield healer. I don't think he said party finder or for you to specifically designate these things. Besides, we can already do that. You can already pick which jobs you want present in the party finder. So it's really no different than what we kind of already have right now. And I don't think the all roles present bonus, which is the actual question that you've asked me, is going to change. I still think just having a healer is going to be that 1%, not one of each healer. But I don't think what you've just suggested would be a bad idea, and I could see them doing that. 2, complete shot in the dark. What do you think when do you think we'll get the next event? There'll be another info dump. Before 5.58, because they're going to want to detail data center changes. So between 5.57 and 5... In fact, I think they told us that the next one would be right before 5.58. So if I had to guess, what did they say? That's going to be like July-ish? So, yeah, I'll go early July. That's going to be what I would shot in the dark. That makes the most sense. All right, hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello, Haps. How you doing? I'm doing all right. You doing all right? I'm doing all right. I think you may be as disappointed in me about not getting a scythe-wielding, heavy-armored Geomancer, but don't worry, Reaper looks fun too. No, if I get a Geomancer, I want it to be a bell-wielding, Luopon-placing slinger of spells. I come this week with 1, update 2 questions. He edited one in later. That's cheating. No, it's fine. I really like Shadowbringers trailer, but the music from Endwalkers is a banger. So which cinematic trailer do you like best? I think Endwalker, as somebody who's played since 1.0, Endwalker is an ultimate nostalgia tug, essentially. It just hits every beat. It goes through the Heavensward music, A Realm Reborn, you know, you've Torn from the Heavens, you have the Stormblood track with Vandaniel and Xenos. It plays the new Endwalker track. You even hear some Shadowbringers sprinkled in over when you get to the Sharlayan section. There's some original tracks in there too for the various different areas. It hits such a wide spectrum of music and aesthetic, long-time places that we've been expecting to go that it wins kind of just by default. And I don't even think recency bias letting up will change that at the end of the day. But it only still barely beats out the Shadowbringers trailer, because that trailer is also on a whole nother level from the ones that came before it, in my opinion. Also, I just saw your video about the trailer of Endwalker. I'm curious, since Estinian and Nidhogg are one and basically the same, what is Estinian's life expectancy? That is actually a good question. Since he is basically... like you said, he has Nidhogg's essence within him, and that it actually influences his attitude, his speaking, the way that he even approaches other dragons we see with patch 5.5, and even with Vritra probably in the trailer. It does raise the question of if his life expectancy is that of a dragon now. And we don't have any definitive answer, but I'd be at least willing to say that the amount of ether swelling within him would indeed imply that he probably has a longer lifespan now. So that's speculation, but one that I think is worth pondering on. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Good morning. Good morning. It's afternoon for me, but it'll be morning by the time you see this, so good morning. Get some rest when you can. No, I'm good. I'm good at this point. Although, actually, I could still use a nap. Quick question that's been bugging me. Have we determined why La Habrea is in the 5.4 cover art with Reen and Gaia? No, somebody asked me about this the other day. I'm sure it wasn't you, but somebody did ask me about this the other day. I did consider the possibility that it is actually Mitron and we maybe just didn't see it correctly. Honestly, I'd have to go back and look to even remotely try to back that statement up. I honestly just assumed that it had something to do with their connection to Ascians overall, and that there was no particular reason that it was La Habrea. One might argue that, you know, Vandaniel being essentially freed from the Sundered in 5.3 may explain why he's there as a picture of a memory. It could also just be one of Mitron and Logriff's memories, those crystals supposedly representing Gaia's memories, those little flashes in time that you see in the back. So it's very possible that it is simply just one of Logriff's memories of La Habrea, and that it's mixing in with all the memories of Gaia and Reen, and is almost like part of the process of trying to bring Logriff out of Gaia and completely erase all of Gaia's memories that she has with Reen. For me, that's the most logical speculation that I could think of, but nothing set in stone. It could even be stuff that deals with the Shadow Walker, but again, that's all Mitron and Logriff stuff. So yeah, that's the best that I got. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. How's it going, Haps? Hey, hope you're doing all right after getting your second job. Like I said, did just fine. Thank you. And if you haven't had yours yet, hopefully you have one as smooth as mine. I had Pfizer, by the way. Short question, is there any jobs that you feel need to be buffed or nerfed coming into Endwalker besides the Astro Rework? So this is actually kind of impossible to answer, because you never just buff or nerf a job as it was at 80, because everything gets completely reshuffled, since you said Astro, and rebalanced going into its level 90 cap. So this question can't really be answered until level 90. Now, I can say based on the way jobs have performed now and how they perform against each other, there is going to be a shakeup there. And I don't think it's necessarily just going to be some raising, some lowering. There is normally a greater power discrepancy between jobs that are a little underpowered and jobs that are overpowered at the very beginning of the expansion before they've had some time to work out the exact numbers and changes that they want to be making. But I would like to see Bard get some adjustments. There are things it just didn't get in Shadowbringers that other jobs got. I still can't believe Bloodletter doesn't have 2 charges. Apex Arrow feels really underwhelming. And while it's largely their Stormblood kit, but just updated slightly, it almost feels like they lost something in the process, if that makes sense. So Bard is one I'm paying close attention to. Summoner, I've spoken about it, in length. We know they're making big changes. I feel less confident about my prediction from before, where I said, oh, maybe they'll just make it so every attack is a summon, and then you still have the demi-summons. After seeing Reaper, I feel less confident, because it is too similar to Reaper, just with a demi-summon occasionally. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to mean anything. The bot is very similar to the Shadow from Dark Knight, so who's to say that this can't also be the case between Summoner and Reaper, but it makes me feel less confident about my own guess. So whatever changes they are making to Summoner, the job's strong. It's more so just I want to see how the changes go. And that's really the case across the board. Bard's the only one I'm really keeping an eye on for changes that enhance its gameplay. Not necessarily buff or nerf, but enhance its gameplay. Hashtag Mrhappy Mondays. Hello, how are you? Hope all's good. Hope the same for you. Hello, and I'm doing fine. My question is regarding main story. Now that Hydaelyn and Zodiark storyline will end soon, which was told over the course of 10 years, do you think the new story will also take that long, or will they tell a new story every year? I think it is going to take... I think they are probably planning... okay, so I honestly think they're planning for the next arc to be 3 expansions. We know they plan things about 2 expansions ahead, so it's reasonable to say that they could theoretically be planning that far in advance and then just make it, about more like a 4 to 6 year arc instead of a 10-year arc. And I think that's probably a better decision anyway, if they want to have these long branching stories that, are told over several expansions. 4 or 5 expansions, I think, is too many to do. Now that they've laid the groundwork, they've got the game where they want it to be, and they can keep building upon it. I think 3 expansions per story arc is a reasonable place to set it. Hashtag Mrhappy Mondays. Hey, Haps, how goes it? It goes well. Hope the same for you. Just 2 quick questions this week, or just 2 questions. I guess they're quick. Now that I've lied and said that you said they were quick, they have to be quick. Okay. How's your card hunt going? I'm actually at 311 now. I got all my trials and instances done pretty much before I started any of the actual triple tri-head playing. All I have left is my dwarf dailies. That's 2. My Elto custom deliveries. That's 1. I have Geralt from Rowena, who I'm hoping to just get from a platinum pack, because let's be honest, I'm probably going to get it from a platinum pack anyway. I have the Raubon and Pippin card, I think it is, which is 400,000 MGP. I have to get that, but I'm buying packs. I need 1 card from the Dream Pack, the Oracle of Light, and I need the 4 platinum pack tournament cards. What is that? Cecil, Lightning, Cidus, and it's not Bart's, it's not Terra, it's not Cloud, it's not Squall, it's not Zidane. There's Cidus. It's not Shantoto, it's not Vaughn. I said Lightning already. Who's the other one? Firion. There we go. Firion's the other one. I got it. I just started filling in all the Final Fantasy heroes. And then I'll be good to go. And honestly, I don't have to try that hard for these. This is just a matter of RNG at this point. Second, I wanted to get this question before 5.55. Good thing this is literally the day before. So spoilers in case this ends up being correct at some point in the future. Although, hold on. Given that Anima's attack set in Final Fantasy X is about utilizing its own pain and misery and inflicting upon others, and Fandaniel's whole shtick is he wants everything to die, do you think Anima trial might actually be Fandaniel? You know what? I don't. But I like the theory. And I'll remember this. I will, because I think of Innocence. And I think of Vothri. And I think, yeah, I could see it. So, I kind of hope you're right. Hashtag Mrhappy Mondays. Hello, Haps. Hope you had a wonderful week. Hope the same for you. My question is that with the introduction of new melee, do you think we'll see more 2 melee, 1 caster, 1 ranged PF comps, or keep seeing 2 caster? So 2 melee was actually the most common comp, basically, until midway into Stormblood, and even then it still remained to be very, very popular. Shadowbringers has definitely shaken that up. People are way more open to doing even double physical range. Most people, just as long as they have the 5% bonus, honestly, they just don't care that much. There's no strict, composition checks for pretty much anything. It's all down to performance. So The answer to me actually though is still yes, because I think there will be this sort of, we need to compensate. You know, 2 melees will join before a caster and a ranged will join, I think is more likely to be the thing. But honestly, with one player per job, I think most people will just slap that on and call it a day. It's only going to be people who are being overly particular, which I'm kind of hesitant to join party finders that are like that in the first place, that try to force very specific, you know, double melee or double cast or whatever compositions, because it's usually to make up for a deficiency that they have not yet seen. And that makes me think that they think they need it, which means that they themselves are probably the player that needs the help and not actually that the party needs to be that way. So I'm always hesitant, but I do think strictly because of melee DPS popularity, you'll just see this more often, less so than people will demand it. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello there, Haps. Hope you are doing well. I hope the same for you. Hello also. FanFest related question this week, but maybe not one you'd expect. As a content creator, how did this online only FanFest affect you? It was great. As a content creator, if you have an excuse to stay home and not travel to an event and be live and be celebrating with people, it is always better than being there. Being there is definitely something that is more on a personal level. It's always cooler to see these things and cover these things live and to be part of the atmosphere and to see friends. But realistically, as a content creator, something that's only online, something you can't physically go to, but you can still cover from home, is almost always going to be better from a content standpoint, which, you know, makes it kind of a tough thing. You know, sometimes maybe people want to stay home and just, you know, focus on the coverage, but then you miss out on seeing your friends and having some bevs together and talking about stuff that you don't normally talk about when you're just kind of seeing each other on the internet. It's a real, you know, human bonding kind of thing, and that is really, really important, something I think we've all been definitely missing a little more of for the past year. But the question was, as a content creator, how did it affect me? It was great. But as a person, I would have preferred to have had a physical event. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hi, Happy. Hope you're doing well. Hope the same for you. Just 2 quick questions. See, this person said quick, so I wasn't making it up this time. 1, do you think they'll ever update the character creation system? Yeah, but I don't think it'll be an Endwalker. I think when they do an engine update at some point, which I think is inevitable at some point, that's when you'll see a character creation update, but not in 6.0. And 2, I don't care how much for glamour. I don't care much for glamour, but it's probable to increase the amount of items we can store in the dresser. Yeah, actually, I do think so, but not in 6.0, but in like 6.1. I think we'll see an expansion of some kind of the glamour dresser. I feel confident about that prediction. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Good morning, noon, evening, night, whatever time it is for you right now. Afternoon, so I'll take that one. And you didn't even say afternoon. Of all the things you could have missed, you missed the one that applies to me. But it'll be morning by the time you see this, so we'll take that instead. Hope you're doing well. Hope the same for you. Maybe an odd question to ask, but with 6.0 coming out, I'm kind of falling into the hole without the MSQ. Do you have any advice for people who experience this the first time before a big patch like this? And how did you... I'm not sure I understand what you mean by falling into the hole without the MSQ. I don't know if that means, like, you're bored and you don't know what to do because you just want the next part of the story to come out and that's, like, all that interests you. I don't know if you mean... Actually, yeah, I really have no idea what you mean by that. If you're talking about you don't know what to do in game, I mean, I've been searching for things like Triple Triad, my ocean fishing achievement, obviously leveling other jobs and crafters and gatherers and all the things like that. All the tangential activities that you normally don't participate in, trying them out and seeing maybe you actually should give them a chance and you actually do like them. And if that's worth delving into. But otherwise, unfortunately, I just don't know enough about the question. I'm not sure on the question how I can answer it. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. G'day, Haps. Top of the morning to you. Top of the morning to you, too. Considering the huge challenges faced by trying to allow content creators to access the new content during a virtual media tour, which, by the way, they didn't say it was going to be a virtual media tour. They said they weren't doing it until September or October-ish when they mentioned it on the live stream. Here in North America, it's feasible that it would be possible to hold a physical event. Other regions of the world are a bit more questionable based on you know, updates to vaccine rollouts and social distancing guidelines. And in the case of Japan, they've had 4 state of emergencies, you know, since the pandemic began. So that's a big question mark. You know what I'm saying? So, but if it is digital, would it be realistic to have some sort of Stadia-like light client where everyone is done on remote servers and served to the reviewers over the internet? So there are companies that do digital kind of closed recording sessions, and they are incredibly strict and stringent, and normally involves either having some sort of hardware shipped to you that is encrypted and is, you know, is essentially a dev kit in a sense, something that they can track, something that they can make sure does not get out, or you have to go through a metric fuck ton of security in terms of different VPNs to go into and secure, just again, encrypting all of the data. And while it's possible to do, I do wonder how much they would be prepared for a setup like that. So it is very much possible that if they do a digital one, that they will approach it like that with as much intent to encrypt the data and make sure that if it were to get out, that it's very, very traceable. How much, if they want to go through that, or if they do want to try to do like a very limited social distanced physical event, that's a big question. And I do wonder where they'll go with that. But while anything's possible, I wouldn't be surprised. I guess I wouldn't be surprised either way, honestly. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hi, Mr. Happy. New listener and asker and fairly getting in the groove with 14 endgame. Welcome. Thank you for asking a question. My question is, since the level cap is being increased from 80 to 90, what things do you think or would suggest some of the classes need to round out their current skills and long-term usability? So this is tough because the problem is when you answer this question, you've now put, you basically put a tombstone on the job. Because once it has all those things, another expansion will come out again. And what happens then? That's when we normally see jobs get pushed over an edge and have to be reworked from scratch. And that is an inevitability, I feel, with almost any job in Final Fantasy XIV, that they will hit a breaking point and need to be redone in some way from scratch. Some of them hit it really, really early, and some of them hit it only because the job just isn't resonating with players. So the only things, I mentioned Bard earlier with bloodletter charges. That's honestly something that's way overdue. I think the big change I expect to see for a lot of jobs to help round them out is that abilities that are buff times, that only last, you know, like 8 to 10 seconds, and you have to squeeze a bunch of skills into the 8 to 10 seconds, making a lot of those a set number of weapon skills would likely be a change that would help high ping players. So a great example would be Machinist Hypercharge. With, instead of you getting 8 seconds to cast it as many times as possible, they give you 5 charges. And then they give you 30 seconds on those charges. And now, even if you're a higher ping player, you're never at risk of missing one of those and losing the wildfire potency. You might still clip the GCD if you have high ping, but it's better than losing entire hypercharges and hundreds of potency on those wildfires every 2 minutes. You might also see that for warriors in a release, to just give them 5 charges of inner release instead of giving them 10 seconds. So skill speed becomes less of an issue. Also on warrior, I wouldn't be surprised to see direct hit, auto direct hits removed from their skills and potencies increased to make up for it. So there are a few little things based on our current designs right now, but we have to know that it's gonna grow on top of that. So just rounding them out isn't really the thing I'm concerned about. It's how many of those jobs are being reworked, which ones are not, that may need it soon, and which ones that if it doesn't happen, then they're gonna be really, 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 really in trouble when it comes to Endwalker. Hashtag Mrhappy Mondays. Hey, Haps. Hope your weekend went well. I'd say it did. This Triple Triad collection is going plenty well. Thank you. We have seen the name of the new raid and 24-man, etc., but we haven't really been told about many new content features for the expansion, aside from the Island Sanctuary. What type of new gameplay features would you like to see in 14? I always thought the Fate system lended itself well to Besieged. No, I don't. I hate Besieged in 11. It never worked in 11 is the biggest problem I have with it. It was laggy, you die while things are invisible, nothing loaded, and nowadays it just gets zerged down to oblivion. Ugh, I would never want anything. Obviously, you're not asking for it to be the hot mess that was Final Fantasy XI's Besieged, but I don't really find any specific comfort in anything like that. It wasn't a content that was, to me, in any way particularly unique. Like you said, it's really no different than a Fate with just a ton of mobs attacking something and you just happen to be standing in their way. And something like Besieged needs to be large scale, there needs to be high stakes, and they're never going to completely lock off any major content to make it say, hey, a town is being attacked, and if you don't defend it, it's going to be helpless until you go and do these things. They're going to try to avoid doing stuff like that, without a doubt. So, honestly, I don't really have too much of an ask when it comes to this. I always just like to see more of the things that we have. I'm excited to see if they can make a deep dungeon that I don't find to be an absolute snoozeville in Endwalker, because they have said they are looking to actually do another one. Curious to see any lessons they learn from stuff like Delubrum, but honestly, getting stuff like that and ultimates and raids, I really like the things that I have now, and I really want to see them continue to evolve. I am looking forward to Island Sanctuaries as well, because believe it or not, I am someone who enjoys myself, you know, Minecraft, Terraria, Stardew Valley, Animal Crossing. You know, I do really like those kinds of experiences, so I am looking for that. So in terms of new gameplay, I mean, I'm kind of stuck. Not because I don't think it can be done, but because ultimately it's going to be a similar gameplay experience, just with a different coat of paint. I mean, that's just how it is. A game's combat system only works so many ways. It's just about how you either restrict it or enhance it. And, you know, whether that be, you know, you being, you know, level 1 and having to level up at the beginning of Palace of the Dead, or being level 1 in Eureka, or not having access to any of your actions yet in Bozja, and all the people who do have them being way stronger than you. You know, there's all sorts of little elements like that, but I am still playing Final Fantasy XIV at the end of the day. So whatever rule set they come up with, whatever, I guess, debilitations they come up with to vary the experience, I'm down for it, basically. There was one thing. Oh, and I'm really hoping the new PvP mode has fucking capture the flag, please. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Haps. Happy Monday. Sunday for me, but it'll be Monday by the time you see this. Hello. Quick one for you. What is your thoughts on some secondary stats like skill speed and spell speed being straight up boosted to grant more benefits for the same investment to be more viable against the ever-dominating crit? I know with skill speed drifting can be a concern when you're lining up skill speed, lining up skills with raid buff windows, but I imagine that could be mitigated through targeting a specific GCD time that allowed for things to naturally sync back up. So there are definitely ways to make skill speed and spell speed more directly involved in specific jobs. And I think that is a big thing that needs to be touched upon here, is how much these stats influence specific jobs. A lot of jobs look to very specific damage windows, where they want to make sure they're getting a buff popped and they're getting everything within that buff window as best as possible. Sometimes skill speed assists with this. You want to get to a threshold where it's the easiest to pull this off. And sometimes it's about what gear you actually have on. I mean, Black Mage is the perfect example of a job that has so many different ways it can be played at different spell speeds, and they're all considered to be an ideal way of playing. Yes, if you were to put them on paper, some do come out better than others. That's undeniable. But overall, it provides you with that I'm not trapped kind of feel. You know, yeah, maybe the crit build is the best, but I can still play a max spell speed build. And it's not a meme, it's not a joke. It is genuinely something that will achieve good results as long as I'm a good player, where other jobs just suffer. And I think maybe that just comes down to maybe designing more jobs or reworking jobs that they can work like that, where skill speed and spell speed are more inherently useful because there are a variety of different openers and options, or they don't inhibit what the job can actually pull off to some degree. So I think jobs that have very specific power windows of power that are easy to get into and easy to get out of, like Black Mage, will probably benefit from stuff like that more, because getting more of those windows is definitely more beneficial than anything else. It's why I think, honestly, if they changed a little bit more about Bard, the biggest problem being that the dots only get a minor DPS increase from skill speed, I feel like it could probably hit that point. If you could get into your Wanderer's window at any point for a burst window, then you didn't have to worry about what else was going on at the time where you were, and it was something that was viable to set up. It's reasonable to say that maybe that could be it. It's really just their rotation that's designed around getting to that every 80 seconds, you know what I mean? So, yeah, it's a tough answer. It's a tough question to answer. Because the answer is there's 100% ways to do this, but I don't think flat-out stat boosting is the way to go about it. I think they genuinely need to look at job design and why crit is so dominant and what they are doing wrong that leads to that, other than crit also being an exponentially scaling stat, and that it increases critical hit rate and damage, which frankly shouldn't be the case. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Haps, hope you're having a good Monday. Got a quick question for you. You got it, and hello. During the keynote address, when we got the image of the floating gardens, you didn't have to seem to know what it was. I believe you called it Zeal. Sorry, that's a reference to Chrono Trigger. For a long time now, I've been saying that the like thing that caused the end of days in the first place, the thing that they all heard and it started to like drive them crazy and make them, you know, they couldn't control their thoughts and they just started like summoning beasts. I always thought that like hum that we hear about, I'm like, oh, that's just Lavos. So when we saw that, we were like, oh, that's Zeal from Chrono Trigger. We're like, see, Lavos is coming. Yeah, no, that's not. However, in terms of what we do seem to know it is, there is a floating mass of islands over Garlemald on the Eorzea, on the Hydaelyn map. And while it's not called Zeal, it is most likely that mass of islands. We're 99% sure that's not Azazla, because we can also see the Sea of Clouds over to the west. So it's most likely that island on the map. But what its relevance is, we don't really know. And the fact that they wouldn't show us is, you know, it's Lavos, obviously. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello, how are you? I'm doing fine. Thank you for asking. Just woke up from a nap, doing well. You're very energetic for somebody who just woke up from a nap, let me tell you. Was there ever or will there ever in the future be a free world transfer? Yeah, they've done them before. They normally do them when they open up new data centers, and they're going to be doing one for the Oceanic data center opening. Now, I don't remember how they determined who qualified. I don't remember if that had something to do with the region they signed up for in the game, or if they just gave it to everyone as an option. But yeah. They normally do this. And also, I think when you're on an overpopulated world, I think you get a free transfer off of that world if you want to leave it. I think that was a thing at one point. I'm pretty sure it is now still, but I don't remember. So somebody feel free to finish that thought or correct that statement in the comment section, please. I'm yawning a lot between parts, so we might lightning round all the ones after this, because I think there's like 135 comments on this video, so I don't know that I can do it without lightning round. So we'll answer this, then we'll lightning round the rest. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Mr. Haps, how's it going? It's going well, thank you. It's actually a second. Oh, so I've answered one from you already. That's greedy. Well, you know what? We're lightning rounding after this anyway, so I guess it doesn't matter. Every time that new jobs are added, they release an expansion on an early access state, with the exception of Ninja Blue Mage. Yeah. But because of this, launch day for expansions have always been the starting cities for those jobs flooded with players, and many hurrying to power level classes so they can use them in the MSQ. I'll be doing the same. You think it's ever likely to happen that new jobs are added in 0.55 before the expansion to give players time to level the jobs to the current level cap in preparation? So no, for a couple of reasons. One, I think they really, really value the idea of somebody buying the expansion for a feature as opposed to releasing them without. Because think of it this way. They are tying this job to the expansion. And, you know, they don't deliver codes. I guess if they decided they wanted to deliver the full release codes early, which they don't, they actually do, even for the digital ones, give you your full release code the day of launch. So, you know, that's not really a possibility, because they need proof that you have bought the expansion, because that is what the new jobs are there for. So that's one big reason. The other big reason is that those jobs are not designed to be finished at level 80. So people start providing feedback and talking about the job and how it plays, and, you know, oh, they already need to buff it or nerf it. They literally are missing the final portion of the job, which, you know, in some cases may not be that big a deal. You know, like Samurai with its Meditator, Monk with its Anatman when it first came out. You know, some abilities, the Six-Sided Star, that just, you know, didn't make or break the job before you hit the max level. But for the majority, it's essentially an unfinished picture. And they don't even want to tell us job changes in advance much anymore, let alone release a whole job early where people are going to be acting that way. So I think those two reasons alone are going to make for them to basically never do it. All right, so like I said, there are a lot of comments under this video, so I'm going to lightning round a bunch. The answers are going to be very simple, and I apologize if they are not in any way satisfactory, but I want to try to get through as many as possible. So let's get to the lightning round. Somebody asked if I was on a remote island, I was stuck with one of my co-hosts or guests from State of the Realm, who would it be? It's got to be Sly. I think he's the best cook, and I think he's got the best instincts, in all honesty. So the only downside is he's going to be asking why the rum is gone. My second pick, oh man, I think it has to be Ethis. I think my two main co-hosts are the people I would trust most being stranded on an island with. And so yeah, I'm going to go with Ethis. I think he's, as long as he doesn't spend all his time trying to wonder about the history of the sands, I think we'll be A-okay. Then I had another one here where someone was thanking me for organizing all the FanFest stuff we did on Twitch. Thank you for the thank you, as a matter of fact. Let's see. I'm looking for player FC event ideas. I am an awful person to ask that. I have no valuable insight on that whatsoever, because I don't really go to too many in-game events other than the occasional event that Sly invites me to, and that's pretty much it. Somebody said, is there any tips on go about setting a schedule all while having a full-time job as a content creator? It becomes your hobby. So anytime that you would basically make for a hobby that you have, which of course is going to be, you know, after work or weekends or things like that. I mean, that's what you do. You know, you decide, hey, you know, I'm not gonna, you know, go rock climbing or whatever. I'm gonna, you know, make this video that I want to make because, you know, it's the thing I enjoy doing. So yeah, it's just like scheduling in a hobby with you when you have a full-time job as well. So it can be really tough. You might have to work on things very slowly, but I mean, if you have a creative itch and something that you really want to make, I mean, then satisfying that itch is more important, you know, always more important than how well the video does or how the video turns out. As long as you're making something that, you know, it comes from you, then that's good enough for me. And you can schedule it in like you would any other hobby. There was another one here. Let's see. All the melee are very unique. Fighting game player, they thought of using different style of combos than the base 1, 2, 3 instead of having a 2-3 combo. much like a punch or a kick, and then use it in combination that change other attacks. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I think that it's more difficult to pull off in a tab target MMO style game than maybe you're letting off with this system, than with this explanation. But I think the idea, I understand the idea of, you know, essentially having punches and kicks that you combine with other skills in order to perform specials. Yeah, I think it sounds like a good idea. I think it is more difficult to pull off in a tab target MMO than maybe it sounds like on paper, though. So, cool idea, and I'll keep that in mind for the future. If I ever see anything like that, I'll remember this moment. Somebody had a question that was not 14 related. Someone asked what shot I got. I got the Pfizer shot, and I had basically no side effects other than a slightly sore arm. Everyone I know who got Johnson & Johnson had a terrible time. Somebody I know, a content creator by the name of Big John. If you watch GDQs or speedrunning stuff, you probably know who he is. He got a minor case of Bell's palsy from his Johnson & Johnson. Literally 1 in a million people got that. So he's recovering from that now. Wishing him the best, because that is not something that anyone wants to have to deal with. But in his own words, he'd rather have that for, you know, a couple weeks than, or, you know, 2 to 4 weeks where, you know, his speech is a little bit impeded and he's got to be on a bunch of stuff, then not have the COVID shot. I kind of agree with that sentiment. So wish him the best of health and the best recovery. Somebody said seeking suspicion Ethis wasn't giving 100% on Gillionaire. So Ethis claims that he botched that first answer, which he's lying about, by the way. He did get got. That he botched the first answer in hopes of us listening to him and then them getting the rebound. No, he just didn't know. I'll tell you this from behind the scenes. He just didn't know. The second question was, he wrote the second question that they called him in for. So he wasn't allowed to be called in for it, which wasn't explained anywhere, so everyone just thought he went to the bathroom and missed it. No. He literally wasn't allowed to be called for that question, and they didn't tell us that ahead of time, so we didn't know that was a thing until after that whole round had taken place. Then the other question there was, will we have boss fights from Final Fantasy IX or Final Fantasy IV? I mean, we're going to be seeing all sorts of Final Fantasy bosses. I don't think that's ever going to be the case. Who do you think we might face in Castlevania? Remember that the Tower of Babel, I'm still calling it Tower of Babel. And as for Pandemonium, which we know is the name of the 8-man raid series with La Habrea that we see from FanFest, I think it's going to be a lot of original bosses, original creations, and some references across Final Fantasy. But I don't have a particular ask whenever people ask me this. Like, yeah, there are bosses. I mean, Anima's been a boss I've waited a long time to see in Final Fantasy XIV. Mage of Sisters also. I'm getting both of my wishes in that case. But I'm always just excited to see what they do, and I'm all for original ideas as well, as long as they're well written and well executed. Like the Shadow Walker, for example, or Shadow Walker, Shadow Lurker. What was it, E10? Whatever that boss is called. My brain's not working right now. Let's see. And then I had another question here. Let's see. I love to be able to play with you and run some form of content. I mean, every day I live stream, I usually make party finders for stuff if I'm doing dungeons or trials or anything. So yeah, I mean, on my live stream, I'm always doing that. So that's, if you ever just come by the live stream, if you ever see me doing something, I'll almost always open a party finder for it and make it available to anyone on my data center. However, and then you asked if I ever play with members from State of the Realm. I mean, yeah, if we often don't have the ability to because we play at different times or on different data centers. But I mean, yeah, I'd always be willing to play with them. It's just almost never works out that way. Somebody gave me a nice juicy steak before Zadnor. Let's see. No historian. Oh yeah, asking about Gongos, why it doesn't have a historian. Yeah, it's bullshit. I agree. Add one. Do it, cowards. Do you think it's worth the effort for them to add in a historian NPC to Gongos? Yeah, why not, right? I mean, it's just quality of life, like you said. Yeah, add that. I want that. I think they'll consider removing the daily limit for the old Beastard quest. They should. I've said this for years, that honestly, in Heaven's Word, they should have removed the A Realm Reborn one. So they honestly should still do it today, and it's getting more and more necessary by the expansion. So yes. I heard your hate for 10 Blitzball, and while I never really liked it so much, it didn't bother me to grind for Wakka's Overdrive. I was wondering, is there a particular reason you hate on it so much? It's just not fun. Like, the only time Blitzball is fun is when you're abusing it, and it's a joke. And that's it. Like, I'm not looking for that out of my MMO experience for something that I am just abusing to get to one reward. And in Final Fantasy XIV, that one reward is going to take a lot longer than Wakka's ultimate weapon did, because it's an MMO and they want to drag it out. There's going to be like, win 1,000 Blitzball matches and you get you get a Blitzball as a hat. I don't know. Like, there's something like that. They'll try to drag it out as long as humanly possible. And honestly, also after Chocobo raising and that of trying to customize stats, I don't trust them to do it again. So no, I just don't think it'll turn out well. That's really all it comes down to. Maybe it does, and I'm wrong, and I just don't think it will. Upcoming relics question. He didn't want the relics to be better than savage weapons? No. Relics are always better than savage weapons. They've always done that. He's always said that they're going to be that. No. He said that they're always going to be, by the end of the expansion, better. What he doesn't want is relics, while a raid tier is current, becoming bis from that raid tier. But by the end of the expansion, when we're on the cusp of the next one and really none of it matters anyway, that's when he likes them to be bis, because it's at a point where it's irrelevant that it's bis. So keeps them from being bis for a long time. Just like while they update it, they still make it good. It's a good thing for casual players to grab or for anyone who just wants to work on it. But it's not bis, so you still really feel like you want to do the raids. End of the expansion, next one's coming soon. Level cap's going to be raised. Nothing matters. Make it bis. Simple as that. So no, yeah, they are always bis by the end of the expansion though. Let's see. Hey there, Haps. Hope you're having a good morning. Coffee, tea, water. I actually have ginger ale. I just had a real rare craving for ginger ale. It's often awkward watching prog parties disintegrate as a range physical because you can't do anything. I think it's a give ability similar to the vein of Refresh Palisade back to DPS classes so healers, tanks, and more leeway. I mean, we do have those things. I mean, even melee DPS have Feint, which is criminally underused. What's it called? Casters have Addle still, which is also criminally underused. Although I think, honestly, I feel like caster players are better at remembering to use Addle than melee players are at remembering to use Feint. Just a personal observation. And ranged all have the AoE, all damage reductions there. So specific party members, I mean, I don't see much a reason. They've given tanks a lot more tools. They've given healers a lot more tools. I don't think they have to. And I don't think it would save any parties that are just in that level of desperation that's the difference maker. Personally, I don't think that would be enough for that. What do you think their chances are? They have been working on male VR and female Hrothgar since the initial new race announcements. Pretty high, actually. I do think they've been working on them since close to 5.1. Female Hrothgar, I think they probably didn't start till even after the pandemic had started. So, but yeah, no, I mean, they probably would have had to been working on these for quite some time. Think you'll get a good remake for Summoner? Well, it's not a remake, but I know what you mean, and good luck. Yoshi P hinted that Blitzball might be coming soon. Yeah, he's hinted it for like 4 years. Since Stormblood, he's hinted it. Big Pool with an elephant statue and golden balls alongside. No, I don't think that Favnair has a Blitzball stadium. No. Okay, anyway, somebody else asked, you think it's something with bouncing or synergy? Could there be maybe too many challenges involved with the cloak? This is about like whether or not Reaper has it's going to have the avatar possession. No, I think it is really more of a lore thing, because visually speaking, we see the avatar when it's not possessing us, and we see it after it's possessing us, and it's the same animations. So basically, that just may not be the thematic that they go for, but there's almost no chance that we just don't have the avatar attacking like it's not our stand. Because even after even before the absorption, it still works the same way, where it's basically an extension of us that appears as like an off global, or sometimes probably a global skill. So no, I think it is literally just we're 7 months out, or like this build from when we took this footage is like probably 7 months out from expansion launch. We can't say for certain that these are all final. It's just too far gone. So it's too far away to say anything with certainty, which is why we don't see job changes overall. So I don't think it has anything to do with any technical issues or things like that. Let's see, what else do we have? Oh my god, it's a good thing I tried the lightning around this. Opinion. About 14 moving to only one job for expansion was still your current take. Yeah, but I think they're getting better maybe at doing jobs. I mean, after seeing the male VR actually happening, I'm willing to take any of my predictions and just throw them out. Because I'm always concerned about their workflow, about the ongoing taking on new things. But one of the major things about Male Vieira was that they said they needed to address workflow. Yoshi P, over several interviews now, has mentioned about improving workflow. And that basically leaves the door open for them to do whatever they want if they can actually improve the workflow enough that these things aren't a major issue. The balancing's not a major issue. They hire more people. They have more people working on that thing, and then they can just keep growing at the same pace. I still think it's inevitable at some point, but I'm not as like, oh yeah, definitely. I used to be like, oh yeah, 7.0, only one job. I definitely predict that. But I wouldn't be surprised to see an expansion with one job, and then the next one have an expansion with 2, and then the next one with 1, similar to what they did with Dungeons for a while, until eventually it comes down to just being 1. So I still think maybe 7.0, 1, I wouldn't be surprised, but I'm less on that boat as I was before. Callouts versus personal responsibility and higher-end content. So a big thing with... So a callout can be as simple as, basic, ice is in, fire out. Somebody can call that. But all the ices need to know where to go and all the fires need to go. And anyone who is in those things also needs to know where to go. So generally stating what is the general responsibility of a debuff, what I think is overkill is when you call out the people who have each debuffs. And I have been in raid groups that do that. They'll be like, Haps and person B, you're ice. Person C and person D, you're fire. Like basically telling everyone, make sure you're standing here, there, or whatever. And that's too much. I think at some point you need to be able to hear what the reminder of what's happening is, and look at the game and look at what debuff you have and pay attention and do the thing. People will screw up. It's inevitability, but I can't stand when like every single detail is broken down by either a program or a person. It's like, why are you even playing anymore? Some people do genuinely need these things. Some people have, either learning deficiencies or hard of hearing or things, and any sort of additional tool that can get them to be able to play the content, they should 100% use. But there are people who I feel like just abuse those systems. Like somebody who's like, they've got ACT going, ACT calls out every mechanic, and then one day, they go to start raid and they forget to turn on ACT, and then they just wipe the raid. They're like, oh, sorry, I forgot to turn on ACT. It's like, motherfucker, you should be able to do that mechanic. You shouldn't need ACT. ACT should be a reminder if you are using it at all. It isn't your hand. It isn't your brain. You can do it. So, stuff like that. Is really big. I do think the example that this person used, saying UCOB with the nail quotes, if there is any place to use ACT callouts for that, nail's the place to do it. But everything else in UCOB should be able to be done with personal. Like, you shouldn't need to be calling like anything other than quotes. Really doesn't need like ACT or like super in-depth callouts. Like, you just need someone to call a general position or a reminder, like find nail and run towards them, or whatever, but they don't need to be doing anything more specific. But the nail quotes, I do understand when people don't learn like that it's a steal or man, it's been so long since I've done it. Steel is chariot. I think flare is stack marker, and I kind of forget the rest because it's been a while. But there is the ability to learn it, but I'm not too surprised when people use ACT for stuff like that. Let's see. Looks like somebody answered that one. Somebody asked how far they can get in the story before they in the free trial, and it's you can finish Heavensward 3.5 story. Let's see. Talking about better punishments for people who mess up mechanics. Make a 30-second twice come ruin for some fights instead of Vuln Stacks. Yeah, I mean, they have that. E10 is the example I gave from that last time. E10 uses twice and thrice come ruin quite well as basically a way of punishing a specific mechanic where you can make a mistake and it's recoverable, but make too many and it becomes unrecoverable in a very gaugeable way. So yeah, I think we're on the same page with that. We're using it as a specific mechanic punishment. E12 does the same thing with relativities, where if you get hit by something extra, because you'll get the doom. So yeah, you and I are on the same page pretty much when it comes to using thrice and twice come ruin. Let's see. Do you think the woman at the top of the poster is Hydaelyn in the 5.5 art? I think it's Vana, and I do think it is the same way Elidibus removed himself from Zodiark, even though he was, a part of the heart of Zodiark. I think this is Vana doing the same thing that Elidibus did. So I think that's who that is in the artwork. Let's see. What's the best way to make Gil? You should be watching Ash 10's videos for that, not mine. Let's see. I should have mentioned the moon has oxygen available. We saw Emertine. We also saw Allagan stuff on the moon there. I think that Zodiark, probably his prison has some elements of Emertine in it. I think it's only natural given that he's most likely imprisoned in the moon. It's been a long time implied. It's even more implied now. And that some Emertine structures or some form of society there would be building. It's why I even guess that the Loporrits might be people who have been influenced by Zodiark and thus have taken up more Emertine, I guess, styles of building and the constructs and things like that. So that's honestly, it's an impossible question to answer. It's all speculation, and as fun as that can be, I don't want to get too deep into it because if it's wrong, I just look dumb, even though it's not meant to be like, oh yeah, it's definitely this. Do you think earlier expansions might get the Realm Reborn treatment? I asked Yoshidas on this, and he said no. They feel like their pacing for the other ones has been done quite well. I do agree for the most part, but there's a few things that can be touched up. They said the Ether Currents would probably get touched up at some point. I think they're going to remove them and just make it so finishing certain sections of the story unlocks flying in certain zones, instead of making you go around and find all of those. Some people like that, but I think in terms of improving pacing, that would be one way to do it. Somebody else had a quick question. Is against terms of service to talk story in 14? I was doing Praetorium run earlier today for Armand Tome. Some guy made a comment about guys being alive. No, it's not against terms of service to spoil people. It's a dick move, but it's not against terms of service. Let's see. Let's see. Gearing reward structure hasn't changed much since 2.x. You see changing endgame rating gearing at all? No. They have changed it considerably over time. They've just made things more available and less of a pain in the ass. Made it so it's less necessary to use things like gear funneling with mains and alts to actually achieve BIS in a reasonable period of time. And I don't think they need to. I think it's a formula that works fine, and it doesn't... Minus a few like minor things, I don't think they really need to touch upon it too much. How much do you think Reaper will be a selfish DPS? There's no way of knowing. I mean, it shares gear with Dragoon. Dragoon is far from a selfish DPS. So one could argue that maybe because Dragoon is so utility driven that Reaper will not be. One could argue that they'll both just be utility driven, and that'll be kind of like the maiming role in a sense, where like both maiming jobs are very helpful to the party. And there's no way to guess it either way. It would be all speculation based on no sort of context whatsoever. Let's see, what else do we got here? What'd you do at Bestiary on Reaper? There's nothing to do at Bestiary on. That's unfortunately the truth. Let's see. Tuesdays for Oceania. What? Oh, it's Tuesdays with Mr. I got it. Okay, there you go. See, there it is. Let's see. Okay, looks like we're finally getting towards the end. Let's see. Wow, okay, yeah. There's someone's asking me to make a cooking channel, call it Happy Meals. I feel like that's going to run into a copyright issue. I don't know. Just might be. Yeah, we're at the point where it's all the way, what's it called, down here. Just looks like there's a few people who are just idiots. I gotta just delete some people. Somebody said, I like this one, Male Fiero was a mistake. It's a shitty time store budget race that came out before any actual fixes. That's an opinion. All right. Can't have people be happy about something. Gotta say everything was a mistake. I think there's a few questions I also scrolled past earlier that some of them were like repeats. So I'm just kind of scrolling back up real quick. Can you petition Soken or Yoshida to use Soken's version of Lahi in the orchestrion role? I don't think I need to petition anything. I think most people have made that opinion very, very public at this point. Let's see, if you ever get to interview Yoshida again, I'm pretty sure I'll get the opportunity at some point. You asked about limited jobs. Last time I did, he basically said that Blue Mage wasn't done yet. And so they didn't want to talk too much about what they've learned or like anything by that. And I know that it's level 70, but it's going to still get to level 80. And so I probably don't want to ask again until after Blue Mage is level 80. But I did consider that in the most recent interview, and then I decided I'll wait till after it's level 80. Let's see. Lahi. Which of the new classes do you like the look of most? See, I like this question. It's not which one are you going to main or you're going to job change. Which one do you just like the look of? And I'm assuming you just mean between Sage and Reaper. I'm actually more of a Sage guy. I love the Reaper Bloodborne aesthetic. That kind of Victorian, devil hunter kind of thing they got going on. But Sage, the kind of sci-fi-ness that it has going to it, I'm actually a huge Giant Robot fan. I don't really keep up with any of the stuff, but some of my, Armored Core is one of my favorite franchises of all time. And I always like that kind of aesthetic, even if it's really weird to see coming out of Sage. So Sage actually, I'd say more directly intrigues me than Reaper, even though if Reaper, it kind of fulfills my inner edgelord a little bit. What else do we have? That was 2 questions. What are you hoping is answered about the 12? Who are they? We still assume that there's some sort of modern interpretation of the Convocation, and I want to know more about that. So, just some answers, please. That's the thing that I really want to know the most. What else do we got here? 5.4 with La Habrea. Somebody asked me a question that's just diadem, and I'll answer no. Let's see. Do you think they'll ever do a Ruby crossover? No. And not that they couldn't, but no. You're not asking me what will happen. You're asking me what I think will happen. And the answer is no. Let's see. New story. That's the new story one. How's your card hunt going? Answered that. That's the 2 melee composition. Someone who did some theory crafting. Are you more hyped for Reaper or Sage? I'm going to play Reaper first before Sage, like amongst the 2 jobs. But, yeah, so I'll go Reaper, I guess. Even though I think Sage is the cooler aesthetic, like I answered the other question. Somebody had a pretty big spoiler question about are we going to lose someone in the trust system? Or they said it was a spoiler question. Are we going to lose someone in the trust system to make room for Estinian? No, I don't think so. I think it's just going to get added to it. And that's going to be the end of it. I don't think it's going to be any more. Well, I mean, we lost Reen. No, we lost Reen before. Yeah, because we replaced Reen with Graha going into 5.4 and 5.5. No, I just think they'll add him. I don't think there's any reason to remove anyone. Honestly, I don't think there's enough trusts, but they try to make them story accurate, so that appears to have an impact on it. There's the character creation question. There can't be that many more. Oh, somebody was like, I've been trying to get my FC to use macros for trials and raids. I'm proud of you. And they don't mean macros for skills, they mean like macros for placements. So I'm proud of you. I'm glad to see it. Do you think there'll be like a super mount at the end of the Heidelin Zodiac Saga? Yeah, I think they will. I think we'll have like some sort of like you beat the first arc cool looking mount. Yeah. I think that's a reasonable thing to assume that we'll get. Let's see. New story comes out. Do you glamour your gear for your adventure? No, I don't give a shit about glamour. Whatever I'm wearing, I'm wearing. Most of the time I have a mask on over my face. Sometimes I remember to take the mask off so I can see my facial expressions, but that's about it. What do you think about them doing pure healers and berry healers? I mean, it's always been that way. It's just they really wanted to fight it, and now they're doubling down and, you know, buckling into it and making them their own designation. So I think it's really no different than what we have here. We're just getting another one, and they're telling us that it's very specifically designated now. Will there be a character creator update in Endwalker? I mentioned this earlier. I don't think there will be. I think 7.0, if they do an engine upgrade in 7.0, which is a long-term prediction that I'm making. Congrats on the 5G. Congrats on the 5G reception. Yeah, my cell reception's great since the second shot. It's definitely awesome. This was just a thank you for answering questions. So thank you for the thank you, I suppose. I don't like to say you're welcome because I want to thank you for thanking me. Because most people don't. Let's see. Yeah, that's the Zeal question. That's Mondays. What do you think the zones maps will look like in the midst of the final days? I think the new ones will be on fire for portions of it. It'll be instanced. It'll appear, and you'll be able to tell that it's going to come and go depending on where you are in the story. But other than that, I don't think most of the zones will change at all, especially the old zones. I think they're going to leave them mostly the same. I would like them not to, but they'd have to instance every zone in the world to be people who are on Endwalker and people who aren't. And I don't know if they're going to do that. I don't know if they will. They could. They do it with Alexander when he's, before you finish the hinterlands and after you finish the hinterlands. So it's maybe. So I was thinking about the Summoner rework. I've talked about that a lot, so I think that's why I went past that one. And then was there anything else? That's which co-host would you take with you? Ideas for players. Oh, and then this is back to where I started the lightning round. Okay, perfect. Okay, with that, I still managed to make this video. It's like, I don't know after I edit out the dead air if it'll still be over an hour, but the recording is over an hour. So I want to stop talking. So thank you for watching this week's episode of Mondays with Mr. Happy. If you have a question, ask it, in the comment section of the video below. And thanks everyone for hanging out. Thanks for tuning in. Keep an eye out for some videos on 5.55 this week. We'll have a State of the Realm this week. Mary's actually going to be joining us for the first time in a long time. So I'm happy to see him finally making his way back in since he hasn't been around that much as of late. And I also have a couple of other videos I'm working on behind the scenes. But they'll probably get shelved if I don't get them done before Tuesday. So I should go get working on that. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. And until then, take care.